All right, San Antonio Film Festival, interview number 2 with Lorraine Hoffman. She has this beautiful project by the name of My Best Friend Bonnethead. So I usually try to start these interviews off with really super interesting questions, said with sarcasm. So I want to know about Peekskill, New York City. And I say that because I work in New York every month. And the minute I read that, I thought, did she make that up? And I kid you not. I was like, where is this place?
So Peekskill is about an hour north of New York City,
Okay.
and it's where I grew up. So my mom taught in Yorktown, which is also north of the city, and so I grew up in this place that was like idyllic and suburban, and we had a lake around the corner. But we also were an hour from New York, and so we had access to all that great theater, and we could get last minute half price tickets. So I was very
Ooh.
fortunate to grow up seeing some of the most amazing. I'm going to date myself, like Yul Brynner and King and I, and Kevin Kline and Rex Smith and Linda Ronstadt in Pirates of Penzance. I mean, I was really lucky to
Huh.
see some of the shows that I did when I was growing up, which has informed my sense of humor and the stories that I like to tell.
That's absolutely awesome. Now, how long did you stay there before you ended up moving? Or basically, where's your home base now?
So I was in Peekskill until I went to college, and then I went to Smith College in Massachusetts, and
Yeah.
then I wound up being back in Peekskill, and I bartended for 5 years. So I was in this, like, I went from being in a women's college in New England to bartending in Peekskill, New York for 5 years, and
Okay.
then I moved to Florida. So I live in Northeast Florida, outside St. Augustine, and I've been there, and then I went to Florida State University Film School. So I've been based in Florida for quite a while now.
Nice. So, to those that may not have the privilege of knowing, as far as from a filmmaking perspective in Florida, any great benefits, perks, reasons we should be there filming?
So it's beautiful. And
Mm.
there have been in the past really great incentives, but Florida's legislature got dumb when Georgia's legislature got smart. And so I've heard rumors recently that Florida may be doing incentives again. But the thing that it mostly has going for it is really fabulous locations, and it's not been shot out. So, like, if you're looking for a location, if you're looking for people to work with you, they're not going to charge you an arm and a leg. They're going to be happy to help, especially when I was there as a student. If people are students, they're very willing to help people's education. Or if you, as a filmmaker, have a bunch of students on your crew, people want to help students learn. And so it's a place where that people aren't jaded, and they're not like starting up leaf blowers just to get paid to turn them off because of your sound. It's a lovely
Okay.
place with welcoming people.
Lovely. And of course, the weather, I'm guessing at this point, is it like 106 like it is in Texas?
No, it actually is a little nicer. Like, it was not as blazingly hot when I left.
Okay.
Was raining afternoon, which cools it off, and there is sort of like the rain every afternoon, and there is hurricane season, so you sort
Yeah.
of have to work around that a little bit. But otherwise, it feels way hotter here in Texas than it
Oh,
does in
yeah.
Florida. Yeah.
I bet. I gotcha. I had read an interview that you did, and one of the things that stood out to me was this comment, very simple one you made, which is show up for each other. So my question to you is, with being in the industry for a while now, is it fair to say that you think equally we all do show up for each other within the arts?
I think there's a really good bunch of people who do show up for each other, who will, like, I'll do labor exchange for people, come to their set, and then like, we work for each
Yeah,
other on each other's kinds of sets. And I
sure.
read screenplays for friends who read screenplays for me. I do think that there are people who think that we're in competition, and there are ways. Like, we're submitting to festivals, and some get selected and some don't. And there's competitions where someone might get selected and someone might not. But really, filmmakers, we're all banging on the same door.
Yeah.
And so we can decide to be in the trenches together and support each other and sort of have a wonderful time creating work together while we're all trying to bang on the same door. Or we can decide that we're in, that we're not. I'd rather make friends. I'd rather work collaboratively with people, learn from each other, support each other, cheer each other on. I think there's something so wonderful when someone that I have watched, like, and I've read their screenplays and I see some modicum of success or they get someplace. It's really fabulous. And I really enjoy seeing people go places or see their movie on Amazon or see their movie,
Yeah.
in a theater. It's really fabulous.
Oh, you betcha, without a doubt. Well, nowadays the industry's changing all of the time so much. We're all kind of in the same pool together, so it just makes sense. Help each other out, folks. That's the whole point of that one right there. You're in all different areas. So we're going to start off talking about the acting. You've only been in 2 projects, both of which were shorts, one of which is this film, of course. And so, from an acting perspective, talk to me a bit about what it is that you gain as an actor that you don't necessarily get when you're directing, because I know you've done a lot more directing.
Yes, I did train as an actor. So when I was in undergraduate, and I even took a semester at National Theater Institute at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center. So I have trained as an actor, and before starting work as a director, which I think helps as a director, right? Learning to speak an actor's language, learning what it is that they do. And you're right. I mostly have been directing. I've been behind the camera, or I've been directing plays. The first thing that I was in was sort of an accidental documentary that I didn't mean to make. I was shooting footage for somebody else and then they didn't use it. And so I wound up making a documentary with it that I was in. And then this one was kind of then an experiment. After having been in the documentary, someone said to me, you should be more of your own things. And so this film was kind of an experiment about being in a film that I was directing and acting in, and it turns out I'm terrible at it. So I wrote it, so I should know the script. I would memorize the scene, so I should know my lines. But then when we were shooting it, I would be watching the scene in my director brain. And so I would be like, oh,
Mm,
they're doing such great work, or oh, I really want to tweak this moment, or oh,
sure.
that's so beautiful. I really love what they're doing. And then they'd all be staring at me in character, annoyed because it was my line and I would have forgotten it, like because I was in director brain. So
Sure.
I would love to act for other people, I've decided, but I think when I make my own films again, I'll cast others and then stay in director brain the whole time.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And I know this isn't your first go around at San Antonio. You were there in 2025 with the project Unlikely Mermaid. So we should talk about that one. That's gotten a lot of traction, a lot of attention. Tell folks what the film is about and where has it ended up? What's the status of it at this point?
So Unlikely Mermaid, my friend Peggy was 79 at the time and I was in my late 50s, and we auditioned to be Weeki Watchy Mermaids, which is a roadside attraction in Florida. So it's
Okay.
about never giving up on your dreams. It's about not letting people define you. It's about no matter how old you are or what you look like, you can go do the thing, whatever the thing is. And it's played 30 festivals. It has a festival. It's got two more festivals coming up in Georgia and in Ohio. And Bonnet Head has another festival coming up, at least in Chattanooga. So it's kind of like the Mermaid film has been running for a couple of years. So it's kind of winding down, but it still has some festivals. And then Bonnet Head premiered in St. Augustine in January. So Bonnet Head is gearing up and doing more festivals. And
Okay.
so there's this little crossover period of the two of them happening.
Oh, lovely. Now, can folks still see it within the circuit now?
Yes. So,
Okay.
so Bonnet Head, I know that there's going to be an October Chattanooga screening. I
Right.
don't know the other screenings coming up. It's submitted to like 100 festivals. And
Okay.
so hopefully there'll be a bunch more, and they can look at my social media, which is Film Lorraine on Instagram, and
Yeah.
keep up with where we're going. And then Mermaid, I think we've got sort of 5 more to hear from. And then it'll wind up, both of them at some point will wind up on YouTube or Vimeo or
Got
both.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on the directing side of the fence, I saw 7 films. I saw that almost all of them were short. So I found that interesting. Why have you only done the one feature? Do you just have a preference for the shorts? There's always a reason.
So I did the feature. I had a little, but I had a little amount of money, and I could figure out how to make that feature for that amount of money. And then it didn't wind up getting distribution. And I think I need to revisit that because, everything has changed and there's so many streaming platforms. I shot that feature in 2003 and it played
Yes.
festivals in '04, '05, and '06. And it didn't get picked up at the time. But now there's, I think, more places to give it a try.
Yes.
So then what happened was the feature kind of didn't turn into the career that I thought it would and didn't get distribution the way I thought it would. And so I stepped back and I've been writing features, and I wound up teaching screenwriting from 2005 to 2015. And
Yeah.
then I picked up a job developing screenplays. So I work with Samico Films as their development consultant, and I work with writers to help them develop screenplays. And I have a pile of features that I've written that I've optioned them. The options have come back to me. And so then I started doing shorts as a way to show people what I could do and a way to go to festivals and meet people. But I am convinced the next thing I need to shoot is a feature, even if it's a very low budget iPhone kind of adventure.
Mm.
Like the Bonnet Head is like a very low budget. We had a GoPro, we had iPhones, we had a friend with a drone show up. We had a friend with a nice camera show up with 2 scenes. So even if I wind up doing another kind of like everyone's helping because they're friends and we're on an iPhone, the next film is going to be a feature.
Got it. Now, for those that may not know this, I think there is always a progression, I think from day one to day, however many, in whatever profession you're in. So, if I were to ask you at this point in time, the director that's here today, what have you learned about her in all this time through all those projects?
I think that it's very important to collaborate and listen to the people you're working with. It's also very important to know where the boat is going and how to kindly and respectfully get everyone going in the right direction. Directing is not yelling and screaming. Directing is helping everyone with the choices. So people come to you with choices, creative choices, actors, designers, and you should know what the story is. You're the keeper of the story. And so you're guiding everyone's choices to create a story that's unified and that works. And so the thing that I've learned is to be incredibly respectful and quiet and listen, and then respectfully guide the ship, because I don't think you get the best work when you yell and scream. And not that I was ever thinking that that would work, but really every film I make, it reminds me and it shows me again that when you treat people with kindness and respect, they will work harder, they will try harder, and the project is only stronger for what you as a leader put out on set or share with the other people that you're working with.
You bet. And in the case of being 2026 and with the industry being so in flux the way it is, what do you typically instruct your students when it comes to if they want an option, a script? What are some of the go-tos do you feel you have to have that make it worth being picked up?
So I think one of the strongest things you can do is write more than one script. Have like three scripts, so that if you're talking with someone and they like you but they don't like that particular project, you have other things ready to go. And
Yeah,
one of the things is to make sure you've got that script, so that you're one of the terrible things that I saw happen was there was a young man who had a really great short, and it could have been a feature, and he also had other ideas, and that short got traction, and he had an agent, and he had the ability to do meetings and to line people up.
sure.
And but there's a window, right, like where that agent is interested in selling you, and he didn't then write the feature script for the agent to help him like move along. And so I think if you want to be a writer, you have to have scripts. You have to
Yeah.
write, keep writing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have a number of things and be ready so that you have that feature for someone to read when you have the door open.
Sure, that makes perfect sense. And when we look at playwriting is on one side of the fence and screenwriting is on the other side of the fence. For you personally, do you struggle? Which one would you say you struggle more with?
Oh, I love them both. Playwriting in a way is easier because screenplay, we have such rules. There's a structure that Hollywood likes. There's a style that Hollywood likes. And it's
Yeah,
funny because on the one hand you would think film can go anywhere and do anything, and you can create whatever world you want, and theater you're kind of in a box.
yeah,
But in that box people are willing to go anywhere with you, and it's a little more loosey goosey in terms of the structure or in terms of certain rules. So there are ways that both forms have freedoms, and there are ways that both forms have limits. And it's fun to play with both those worlds. And generally, for me, a story either is a play or is a screenplay. There's only one that I have a play version and a screenplay version.
okay, I've gotcha. Yes, because I know that there are some actually. I have a friend of mine who literally took a production that she had written it as a play and turned it into a film. So, I mean, how often do you see that? Or do you think that that's actually a feasible option to do?
It is if you know screenplay form. So
Yeah,
novelists and playwrights who do not know screenplay really should have screenwriters at least reading and giving them comments,
yeah,
because screenplay is such a particular form, and to make it work as a film you have to break it out of the play world. You have to, if it was in one or two locations, you've got to break it out of those locations. You've got to think in terms of visual and visual storytelling. A play audience will hang in there for dialogue, and a lot can happen in the dialogue. And in a film, you have to make sure that everything is underlined visually, that you're telling that visual story and using visual metaphor and breaking out of the one or two locations.
yeah, you
And
bet.
yeah, and the structure, the way the structure plays and the turns and having things happen every 15 minutes or so. So playwrights and novelists, I recommend that they do screenplay classes or that they talk with screenwriters and then have screenwriters read and see where things are and get notes from them.
You bet. And before I forget to ask this, everybody has their favorites. So you do happen to have any kind of what's your favorite format as far as online for utilizing or creating screenplays or plays?
Oh, I use a Final Draft. It's the
Uh-huh.
professional thing. That's a professional
Yep.
thing to go to. And I had a friend years ago who was a reader for a production company that said weirdly, like the margins are slightly different in different programs. And
Yeah.
that production company, if it didn't come in and it wasn't from Final Draft, they wouldn't read it. They would dismiss it. And I also, there's a great student discount. If someone's a student, like grab Final Draft while you're a student. But I love Final Draft, and it has plays and screenplays.
That's awesome. Okay. So let's talk about this beautiful film, My Best Friend Bonnethead. First question I want to ask, I'm going to assume because I didn't realize till the very end that you actually did go to Laura Ingalls' home and the museum. So is that was that one of the mitigating factors for shooting in Oklahoma? Because I was like, Oklahoma, interesting.
So I wanted to the my co-star Michelle Ford is also a filmmaker. We both had films playing in a Oklahoma Film Festival. I really wanted her to go with me. And so part of how I made that happen was like I was like, look, if I write a movie that we can shoot while we're going and I'll cover the trip because I'll write it off because it's a movie that we're making,
Yeah.
right? So I convinced her to go with me by writing a story for us to shoot on the way. And we shot a lot in Chattanooga where she lives, and we have friends there. I spend time there because I've got family there. So part of the impetus for the movie was I wanted Michelle to go with me to Oklahoma. And so I wrote something that I thought she'd like, and I wanted to work with her. I think her acting is really fabulous. I think she's
Yeah.
a stellar human. So we did in between Chattanooga and Oklahoma are two Laura Ingalls Wilder home sites. There's Mansfield, Missouri, and there's also the museum in Independence, Kansas. So the
Okay.
Independence, Kansas is a recreation of a cabin. That home site didn't survive, but they've recreated the cabin and other buildings of the era. But the Mansfield, Missouri location is the farm where Laura and Almanzo lived a great deal of their married life. And then their daughter Rose built a house for them there, and they moved there, and then they moved back to the other house. And so the Mansfield, Missouri location is authentic Laura Ingalls Wilder home sites. And so we had a wonderful time there too.
I bet that's awesome. Now I had read that you had gotten the help of some SCAD class members, which I did not know.
Yes.
How did that come about?
So I have a film school friend. I went to Florida State University, and one of my friends from film school, Ruth Hernandez, is a post sound person. And Ruth is amazing. And she's worked on Mrs. Maisel. She's worked on Martin Scorsese films. She's got a really great list of credits. And she has been super fabulous. So the short films that I have done the last few years, she's come in and helped clean up the sound as a friend, as a favor,
Yeah.
which is amazing. And so this film, she has a friend who teaches sound at SCAD. And so that she asked if it would be okay to involve the students. And because I taught, I was like, absolutely, the more
Yeah.
students, the better. And so Jamie Baker, who teaches at SCAD, involved her classes, and they got acting classes involved. And so I think my sound department is the largest department on the show. But that's how it was through Ruth to Jamie Baker that we
Okay.
had the SCAD students. And I'm so thrilled. It's been great to work with them.
That's awesome. Now I have to immediately ask about the wardrobe. It's so cool. I mean, just so much, especially the sequin dress. So where did the sequin dress come from? I'm all about the sequins. I got to know. Where did you get that from?
So I got a lot of things from Amazon. Lots of sequins. Oh wait, no, I think the sequin dress actually came from Cider, Cider. That's a
Okay.
website too. So things were either Amazon or Cider, which
Okay.
used to be really inexpensive stuff. And yeah, so the sequin dress came from Cider. Because the mermaid movie, when I go to festivals, I try and dress so like this movie. I'm in floral prints because I'm at the Bonnethead Festival. But when I was traveling with the mermaid movie, I got all these sequins to wear to film festivals. And so when I was pulling costumes, part of it's like looking in the closet and seeing what there is. And so I had that sequin dress, and it needed to be in that scene.
It did. All of that wardrobe was just divine. But more importantly, I don't always see this in films, but I do feel like in your particular film, the musical score, all the background music is literally part of the character in that film. And so it's perfectly placed and beautiful. So tell me a bit about how you found the musical score here.
Oh, I'm so glad you're asking with the music, because every musician that is in this film, I am such a huge fan of their work.
Mhm.
I put a call out on Facebook, which has worked before when I've done films, where I'm looking for independent musicians who are at a point in their career where it would be helpful for them to get some, play at film festivals or for them to be in a movie. And so I put out a call and it wound up being friends of friends. And then one of my high school friends, John, and his wife, Melisa, they want to do more film work. And so they wrote the original song that opens the film. And then there's like a sadder, slower version in the beginning and then a happier version at the end. So
Okay.
they wrote an original song for the movie. And then I connected with Danielle Ate the Sandwich through a high school friend. And then I connected with Lori Brigantano through another friend from college. And
Okay.
they are amazing. So it was about connecting to friends of friends, listening to the work, working with them about licenses, because it is a road picture. So there's scenes and then there's these sequences where there isn't dialogue. And so
Yep.
the music was really important to me. And I'm not a fan of score. I sometimes feel like score can be heavy handed or it's like leading the audience emotionally. And of course, a film, you're trying to create an emotional experience and connect your audience to the story. But for me, I really love songs. Like I love to find a song that fits a moment or find a song that fits a sequence, find songs that speak to the characters. And so for me, songs are a stronger choice than score. And then Iron and Wine is Sam Beam, and he and I went to film school together. And he's been so kind about almost every film that I've done. There's one that was so ridiculous I wasn't going to ask it, but almost every film that I've done, I've found a song, and Sam has been kind enough to let me license it and use it. So it's like it's this extra wonderful thing that we have this connection all the way back to film school. And so it's Iron and Wine and John and Melisa and really fabulous Danielle at the Sandwich, really fabulous, wonderful people. I am so, and even the people that I listened to that I didn't pick,
Mhm.
there's really great independent musicians out there to work with.
Nice. Thank you so much for that. One of the things that's within the course of the film, obviously, you're taking a road trip, and so that means you have driving shots. I hear filmmakers complain about this all the time, the complexities of trying to create driving shots. So, to your fellow filmmakers, talk a bit about the process of how hard is it really to do the driving shots or create them?
So it's gotten easier because drones are more accessible to
Yeah.
us. So we did driving shots with, I had a GoPro that we had on the dashboard of the camera or on
Yeah.
the dashboard of the car, right? So a bunch of that's just, we stuck that GoPro for a lot of the trip on the car.
Yeah.
We were, part of the story is that Michelle's character is doing content. So Michelle would use her iPhone to shoot things that
Yeah.
fit in. Then when we had another person, we would have someone with a tripod on the side of the road to shoot the car going by. And we would find places where it was safe for the person to be with the camera on the side of the road. We'd find places
Yeah.
where it's safe for us to drive. And then we had this really wonderful friend in Chattanooga who has been an award-winning still photographer who has a drone, who's doing more drone work, who wants to do more film drone work, and who said to me, Lorraine, I haven't done any car shots. I would love to show up and do car shots with you. And so we figured out where we could do shots around Chattanooga, what neighborhoods would be safe. And so he came in to help us to learn how to do more drone shots, but it's become more accessible. I think you always have to bear in mind safety and the roads that you're on and
Oh,
making
yeah.
sure that, right. But with the GoPro and then the friend with the drone and then friends who are willing to be at the side of the road to like shoot the car going by,
Yeah.
got some really cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Well, and the other thing too is I wondered to myself, you guys are talking about one of your characters wanting to be influencers, of course. So, did the filmmaker do a whole lot of research about what influencers do now and what they say? Because some of the lines I was like, they had to have looked this up or whatever, because I don't even know that.
So in my partner's family is a young woman who's an influencer, sort of in the fashion kind of how like the I guess
Okay.
it's lifestyle and fashion. And then we also have in my partner's family the two young women who do my pretty little podcast are in the family. So I had
Okay.
learned about the podcast and that their podcast like blew up because it was about Pretty Little Liars. And so there was this fan base. So that little sequence is like written based on reality. of that in Tony's family, there are these young people who have a podcast that blew up because they tapped a fan base. And also, there's an influencer who's making a nice living. And so
Yeah.
I like sort of listen to them and watch them and see what they're up to. And so I don't know that I did a deep dive on the research. It's more just hanging out with those, like the great nieces that like taught me a lot about how that works.
Well, it was interesting too. I was like, I just love that. You're sitting there. The cutie patootie thing for me was super cute because I've heard that before. And I'm like, I love that. Or the slow-mo thing. That's like my favorite. I can slow-mo. I was like, oh my gosh. So what I learned through this movie is, to those of you that haven't seen it yet, you have two characters here. To me, they are best friends, but they're also very different. I find that your personalities are a bit different. We come to find out that there is indeed more to the story than just going off and becoming influencers. There is a deeper root meaning to that. And I couldn't help but wonder when I was watching it, I wondered, is this fictional or is this actually based, the reasoning, meaning of the reason, was that actually based on some form of personal experience for anyone that you know?
Well, there's this idea that as women get older, we become less visible, right? The
Yeah,
idea of older woman as invisible. And it sort of relates back to the mermaid thing too about I think no matter how old we are, no matter what we look like, we should be pursuing the things that are of interest to us. If it's not hurting anybody else, why not try and become an
right.
influencer? If it doesn't, why not try and become a mermaid? Why not pursue these things? And I fight against the idea that older people are less valuable. We have wisdom. We have,
Yes.
right, stories to tell. And the perspective of a 20 something, they have wonderful stories to tell and wonderful perspective, but so do we who are older. And I hate the idea of being invisible. And so I'm going to fight that. I'm going to fight that as much as I need to from here on out.
For you. Now, when I watched this movie, what I thought was, if someone asked me what the movie was about, I would say it is about the fun and the frolicking that friendship brings. But most importantly, what it really, to me, what stood out was the idea of what friendship really looks like in the moments that you need it most. But I didn't create the movie. So if I gave you just two sentences and said, please tell me what my best friend Bonnethead's about to you.
It is about friendships, and that with your friends, you can find honesty and rediscover each other and reconnect, even when you've had a falling out.
Absolutely. And I know that you had mentioned, of course, that we're not sure exactly how many more screenings we have for this particular film, but do tell us what's coming up in the future for you. What else are you working on? What else can we know about?
So I am still writing features. I'm still doing screenplay development consulting, and I do that freelance as well as work with the production company in LA. Um,
Okay.
and the next thing that I'm hoping to do is shoot one of the features that I'm writing.
Ooh, that's exciting. Now, if people listen today, and I know you mentioned the teaching aspect, how do they get involved if they want to go ahead and attend a class or be part of that? Can they do that?
So the I stopped teaching at Flagler in 2015, but I do teach
Okay.
workshops. So
Okay.
different groups have hired me to. I've taught in Chattanooga, I've taught in St. Augustine, and whenever I get into a film festival, I will write to them and say, I don't know if you have your schedule set up yet, but I'm very happy to teach a workshop on how to like a
Okay.
crash course in screenwriting. And so I do occasionally teach like an hour and a half crash course in screenwriting at some of the film festivals I attend. So there are, if you follow me on social media, you'll know when those are coming up and if they're in your neighborhood. And I'm also happy to talk to people. You can hire me to sit and Zoom with you and talk screenplays.
Awesome. And the easiest way for folks, I know that you're in a variety of places on social media. What's the best place to have people contact you?
So I dig Facebook. So I'm Lorraine Portman on Facebook, and I'm also Film
Okay.
Lorraine on Instagram. Those are the two social media platforms I use the most.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, this is what I often tend to end my interviews with because of the fact that I've noticed that many never hear this, and you're in multiple spectrums, meaning the acting and the teaching, and of course, the directing. We are just so incredibly grateful for the art that you give us, meaning in this particular case, you could amuse us or make us smile. Sometimes you make us cry, but most importantly, you move us. And I think that's something that should never go unappreciated. So I speak for tons and tons of folks out there just saying, thank you so much for keeping us all relevant. Thank you for entertaining us. Thank you for the things you do.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate when an audience shows up to engage with the story that I'm telling. I super appreciate every film festival that programs me and every audience person that shows up to listen to a story, watch a story.
That is awesome, actually.